Hello and welcome to a special live episode of the Big Rican on Sports podcast, the 2022 Big Rican mock draft, which, by the way, it's going to get mocked pretty heavily tonight. And I don't mean we're making things up as we go along, which we are. But it is the usual suspects, my co-host of the Wise Guys Show, JC Blue Note, and of course, for the second year in a row, the man from Chicago, Mr. Alex from Row 7. And gentlemen, we have to do some housekeeping first. And no, Jim, this is not the first of the Bill Cosby impersonations that I will do throughout the evening. This is something a little bit better than that. Please welcome to the show, Camden Jack Rice, born March 18th at 2:01 a.m. The baby was 7 pounds, 13 ounces, 21 3/4 inches long. Mama and baby are doing great. So, John, if you don't get on right away and you do see this after the fact, congratulations to you and Nikki. All the best to your family and his older brother and sister. But let's dive in, gentlemen.
Congratulations, John. John and I went to high school together as well. So congratulations, buddy.
Congrats.
Yeah, Jim and John are actually a year ahead of me.
Okay.
So when I do shows with them, I don't feel quite as old. I got to come out swinging. So here's what we're going to start with, gentlemen. I know this is supposed to be the mock draft. We are missing our fourth Willie from Shakeback Media. If he gets on, great. If not, we will do a roundup at some point in time with him. So here's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the frenzy of transactions that has happened that has actually turned our mock draft into basically a humongous joke. Let's start with the biggest one that doesn't involve a favorite team of anybody on the panel, and that is the trading of Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos for a massive, massive haul, including draft capital, Drew Lock, Noah Fant. Who was the defensive player that went? Does anybody know the guy's name off the top of their head?
Oh, not off the top of my head, but I did blog about it last week. I can pull it up. Give me 2 seconds.
You're good. You're good. I know it's a D lineman. So, Alex, while Jim is pulling up, I want to start with you. Were you shocked that he was moved, or were you more shocked at the destination?
No, real quick, Shelby Harris.
Okay, Shelby Harris. So were you more shocked at the destination, or were you more shocked at the move?
More shocked at the move. I knew that there was rumblings of him going to Denver. Didn't really think that it was actually kind of come all together. I envisioned him kind of going to a place that, aside from Denver, really needed a quarterback, like in New Orleans. But him going and staying somewhat west, but just going to a different conference, that really shocked me. And then obviously the haul that they got for him was just like, whoa.
Well, not for nothing. I didn't think they were going to trade him inside the NFC.
That's
the last thing you want to do, which is why the move yesterday shocked me so much. Outside of, what was shocking about it. So let's talk about that for a minute. Does this make Denver now really the strongest division in football, in my opinion, the AFC North notwithstanding? Does this make Denver a player there, or is this kind of just John Elway taking a shot like he did with Peyton again? Jim, I'll go to you for that one.
I'm actually this makes them a player, but let's also keep in mind that now you have Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and Russell Wilson all in the same division, and 2 of those guys are going to get left out of the playoffs because it's almost mathematically impossible for 3 teams in the same division to get in.
But we've seen it in the last 2 years.
We have, but it's but 20, also but you're not going to get excuse me, 2 of the 3 wild cards in there, especially now when you've got Baltimore and Cincinnati in the same division, and you've also got Buffalo in there, and then also New England as well. So, the chances of 3 getting in out of that group of 5 is astronomical.
And I agree with you. But it has happened, and I just kind of wanted to point that out because 2020 we had the 3 dogs from the AFC North, Browns, Steelers, and Ravens all made the playoffs. So let's go to the other side of that move, and now we got to go to yesterday first, and let's talk about the move that has angered half of the city of Cleveland, and let's go to the move that has angered both Jim and I. And let me explain why it angers me first. The off-the-field stuff, not for nothing, we as a fan base, and Jim can attest to this, we held the high ground over the Pittsburgh Steelers for 17 years.
Yes.
Because we called him Raplesberger. Now the Bill Cosby of the NFL plays for the Cleveland Browns. And the $230 million guaranteed dollars he will receive from the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, that's right. Nearly $250 million to one player who brings more baggage than a bellhop in New York City. Because we don't know what the suspension is going to be. We don't know what the fines are going to be. Not that I don't think Mary Kay Cabot and Tony Grossi will pay those fines for him because they hated Baker so much. But I want to talk about the football side of this, which is what people are getting lost on. And I want to talk about paying $250 million to a guy who has the same amount of playoff wins to the guy he replaced. And Marshawn, if you watch this or if you see this, I'm going to say this to you. In the year he won his playoff game, he had 6 Pro Bowlers and 2 guys who were first-team All-Pro. And my wife is on. She said disgusting. And we thank you, honey. And thank you for watching. I'm very shocked by that. Not going to lie. Usually it's share the show and be nice about me either taking over the bedroom or the dining room, but this is like big up. So I'm going to go on the field for a minute. Like I said, you're talking about a guy who lived his entire life below Mason-Dixon. He was born in Georgia. He went to Clemson. He played in Houston. And what Jim mentioned in his great video, by the way, yesterday, I watched it this morning at 3:30 when I was up with the baby. He played in a weather-controlled dome on turf. Alex, you know this. The weather starts getting bad in Cleveland and Chicago at the end of October. But here's the other part of it. And it's not that they did Baker dirty, because I toyed with wearing the Baker t-shirt too. How do you give the money to this guy who quit on one team already, hasn't played in a year, because they wouldn't allow him to last year because of all the other stuff? And finally, what does this mean for the offense that has carried the Cleveland Browns to 2 pretty good seasons? I mean, yes, they had issues last year, but it was not a Deshaun Watson type offense that got them an eyelash from an AFC championship game the year before. And not for nothing, it wasn't Baker Mayfield. It was that dynamic running game and that great offensive line. Now you bring in a guy who you have to tailor an offense after. So is Kevin Stefanski going to change? Is Andrew Berry going to lay down the law with this guy? This is, Jim will agree with me. This is Jimmy Haslam written all over it. This is Johnny Football. This is him thinking he's a modern day George Steinbrenner or Jerry Jones when guess what? You don't have the pedigree, Jimmy. So my concerns as a Browns fan is the on-field stuff. The off-field stuff's going to take care of itself, and it's deplorable. It's absolutely deplorable.
A lot fewer Browns fans today than there were 24 hours ago before I put that video up. And
I agree with you. And I know that. My sister and brother-in-law are looking at Cincinnati, which Megan, anybody but Cincinnati and Baltimore, please.
My brother already put in an application and received 7 positive acceptances to join the Bills Mafia, including also putting up one of a compilation of some of his backyard videos getting tossed through tables.
Well, you and your brother did that basically for a living, so I think Bills Mafia will enjoy you to its immenseness.
Yes, including getting thrown in the flaming coffin.
I remember that.
Alex, I'll try and see if there's a way I can send you the video after the show tonight.
It's epic, dude.
I'll be looking forward to that, honestly.
So, Alex, I want to move this to you because you are a fan of a team that is pretty long suffering now. Not nearly as long as the Browns, but pretty long suffering. What was your reaction to this move yesterday? I know you were as shocked as I was, but what was your overall first impression?
I think first and foremost, outside of the whole on-field stuff, I kind of really wasn't concerned with that. It was more so the off-field stuff and how that can just how it just seems to be, from my perspective, looking at another team that I have no stake in. How could you take on that type of contract? How could you bring in somebody like that with that type of track record? And I know we're not going to go down that rabbit hole of what he's got that's in front of him or behind him or wherever it's at. I just have a hard time trying to ingest the fact that you take on this kind of suitcase of issues that are inevitably going to bleed into on-field stuff. And then you talk about, like what you mentioned, how the offense is going to change. They were heavily a run game. He can also, if Deshaun is able to play, which that's not my choice, he's going to run the ball. He's somewhat of an elusive quarterback when he does have the ball. So inevitably things are probably going to change, and that's going to ruffle some feathers in the locker room, and how that will play out if they will be successful going into this next season. There's a lot of questions to be had, I would say, and I'll just leave it at that.
Now, I am going to say this. As far as talent goes, I do believe he is a more talented quarterback than Baker Mayfield. I do believe that. His numbers say that. He also had DeAndre Hopkins in his prime, so you can take that for what you want too. But Jim, I'm going to go to you with this. Well, I don't think he had Andre for very long, did he?
Yeah, but it's regardless. If you play with a guy for half a season, which I don't know what it was, you still got a guy for half the season.
That's true. But I want to go a different angle on this too, and I want to say, Jim, I said this to you in a text message earlier, so I'm going to line you up with this. How shocking is it that J.C. Tretter was released 2 days before this, who may be the biggest character guy in that locker room?
And you also had to know it's because basically it was Baker's best friend on the offensive line. You've seen all the mic'd up videos, and he's basically, sitting there BSing and laughing with Tretter.
Yeah,
it's his security blanket. It's not, it's not Joe Thomas, protecting all the guys and everything and being the father figure. This was basically one of his best friends. From everything that you've seen, and you had to know something was up, and especially after $16 million of cutting Jarvis Landry, and then and then letting Austin Hooper go to free up about $6 million as well, and now Tretter saving $8 million as well. So you had to figure something was coming. We just had no idea it was going to be this.
Yeah, considering we thought they were out on him. So that's a big part there. I don't want to spend too much more time on this. I will say I like the Jacoby Brissett move. I think that was a nice addition there, especially if you're going to now tailor the offense to Deshaun Watson.
Wait, Jacoby Brissett? I must have missed that today.
They are signing Jacoby Brissett to a one-year deal. They traded Case Keenum to the Buffalo Bills for a 7th-round pick today.
I did see the Keenum thing. So what? So Nick Mullins is out of the equation now?
I don't know what they're going to do with Nick Mullins. It really all depends on if he gets suspended. Because if he gets 4 to 6 games, which I think, Jim, you and I are pretty much in agreement, it's going to be between 4 and 6 games. If Ben got 4, and that would only be because of the volume of what's going on, that would be the issue. But if it's between 4 and 6 games, you need a backup, and Nick Mullins will have to be that backup.
Right.
So the last thing I wanted to get to was, did anybody see Devontae Adams leaving Green Bay? What is going on up there?
Do you see the smile on my face?
Yes, I do see the smile on your face, my friend.
Mike, you and I had our time. Alex, it's his time now.
Yeah, and apparently Rodgers knew about it.
That's the shocking aspect to me, considering that they, were best friends and locker mates and maybe shower buddies, who knows, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Is that why Shailene Woodley left him?
It could be. I don't know.
Here's something I was thinking about while I was out and about today. Rodgers now 3 more years, $50 million a year. What the hell happens with Jordan Love? They're not going to sit him 3 more years.
Why? They were willing to do that if Favre would have came back?
Right.
I'm willing to bet that they've moved on from the Jordan Love era. That what was the Jordan Love era, whatever, 5 games or less, probably.
Right, because you figure, now we're talking. Do the Browns move Baker to Seattle? Does he go to Indianapolis? Does this open up a potential starting spot for a guy now like Jordan Love?
Yeah. No. By the way, the fist bump was the Mets won 6-2. Um,
I'm going to do one too. UCLA one.
Nice. I'm having the same connection issues I did last time. This thing is killing me. So, anyways, let's dive into the draft, gentlemen, and let's talk about one of the biggest spectacles in sports, which is the NFL draft and the weekend that they have. So let's go back into the chat we had going on Twitter. Dum 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 dum. All right, so Willie had the AFC South and the AFC West, if I remember correctly.
I had the AFC East and the NFC West.
Yep, and Alex, you had the North and the South and both. Ed, Willie had them. So as we start from the top of the draft, I think we can all agree on this one is that Jacksonville's either going to go O-line or they're going to go Aiden Hutchinson. So let's talk about that pick. Jim, which way do you think Jacksonville goes in the first year of the Doug Peterson era?
With the first overall pick in the JC Blue Note mock draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select offensive tackle Evan Neal, Alabama. They need to protect Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence has got to be familiar with a lot of young talent, having played against Evan Neal at least once in his career before graduation.
Yeah, I like that pick. And Alex, you're effectively on the clock with Detroit now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who you had planned on taking with them. I know who I would take here, but let's go to your pick there. And by the way, I love that pick, by the way, Jim. It's doing the exact opposite of what Cincinnati did, but then again, in Joe Burrow's second year, Cincinnati got to a Super Bowl.
But you got to actually keep if you draft a franchise quarterback, you have to keep him upright.
Let me ask this question quick for Alex before we get into this. Does Jacksonville have the cap room and the draft capital to go get him weapons and try and make a run like Cincinnati did?
That's a good question. I don't know offhand.
I can check the draft. I can check the draft capital right now. There's a fantastic website out there that'll actually give you real time here. It is loading as we speak. Jacksonville, as it stands right now, has only $13 million in cap space.
Nope.
Okay, so they don't have it. All right. So Alex, let's go to you at number 2 for the Detroit Lions. The resurgent Detroit Lions. Maybe.
I mean, by default, I mean, if Jacksonville's going to go that route, you have to go Aiden Hutchinson just by default.
Yeah, and it's really a slam dunk because it's a Michigan guy.
Right, exactly.
And you're keeping him home.
If he
fell into their lap, why I'm here as well.
Yes.
You're more McShay than Kuiper.
I'm younger and I don't actually have 19,000 pounds of goop in my hair like Bret Hart did.
I always thought that was just water.
Oh, that's adorable that you think that.
Whatever. I thought it was real until I was like 30. No, I'm kidding. I'll
always remember the Bobby Heenan line. You can run his head over and give your car a lube job.
Oh my God. Yeah. Rest in peace to the bad guy too.
Oh yeah.
That was maybe my favorite match up until probably Cena Rock. Was that first ladder match with Shawn Michaels?
Yeah, I know, Mike, you didn't see it, but Britt Baker actually in a steel cage match on AEW on Wednesday night wore Scott Hall inspired gear with like the black and white, like, blood dripping and everything.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So we're up to pick number 3, and that's the Houston Texans, who now have a bunch of picks in the first round. 3 and 13 that I know of. So I'm going to go here. Let me take this one. And I think they take Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, the safety. Their secondary was absolute trash. They need the help. That's who I would take. Jim, in your mock, since you – now, Alex, did you do a full one or just do your teams?
I just kind of mainly focus in on my teams, but I can go
Jim,
back and forth.
since you just, basically, we'll call it Mick Kuipered this draft. Who did you have Houston taking at 3?
I went Thibodeau. You can't leave a guy like that on the board, and they need, they actually now they're going to be able to get, what they need for their offense with all of their picks. But you can't you can't pass on a guy like this. He's that he could be that Myles Garrett, J.J. Watt type stalwart that jumpstarts your defense, and you can cornerstone around in your rebuild.
Okay, and I get that. I only
a guy like this on the table at 3.
Yeah, and I only went secondary because they have the pick at 13, and they can add some weapons. But I thought the first need for them was going to end up being secondary because of how porous it was. Doesn't mean they won't get somebody in free agency with the cap room they've made, but who knows? JC, your first pick, the aforementioned former team of my youth, the New York Jets. Who are we taking it for the now second biggest debacle in a front office?
Right. With the 4th pick in the JC Blue Note mock draft, the New York Jets select Ike Ekwonu, offensive tackle, North Carolina State.
That is big. Again, Alex, let's talk to you about this one. Zach Wilson wasn't terrible. And Mekhi Becton was.
Mm-hmm.
So you like this?
I do. It's definitely going to keep Zach Wilson upright, and I know he struggled in a sense, but he didn't look terrible compared to like what you had mentioned that the Jets are a dumpster fire in a sense with that front office. So I mean, kudos to him. Hopefully he is able to stay healthy, and this pick right here will definitely help him out.
For me,
and
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, Jim, you're on. Go on.
I was going to say it's Evan Neal is with his size and his athleticism. I think is we've got a great run of offensive linemen in this draft. It is very deep, but I just think there's something where Evan Neal would fit Jacksonville a little bit better, whereas Icky, his athleticism is really going to help keep Zach Wilson upright, especially when you now look at the pass rushers that are in that division between Buffalo, New England, and the Dolphins.
Especially with Buffalo adding Von Miller.
Correct.
$120 for Von Miller. That blew my mind.
He goes from one of my teams to one of the others. I got no problem with it.
Hey, listen, man, you could, just repaint a jersey and you'd be good.
Yeah.
So I'm up now with the Giants, which is the see, I had Evan Neal going to the Giants because Daniel Jones is another one who gets killed. You know what? I'm going Homer, and I'm getting him a weapon. And with the 5th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, the Ohio State University. Maybe the most dynamic playmaker on the outside. Jim, I know you like the kid from USC. You're laughing at me now. We won't talk about your jersey. But listen, Wilson has the 40 speed. He's a great route runner, something the Giants have not had in a long. I could add more longs if I wanted to, but I won't. Time. I had always projected Garrett Wilson to be the first wide receiver off the board, which is why I'm putting him up here. Jim, who did you have going to the Giants? And then Alex, I want to pivot to you for something.
I actually had them going Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah. The Giants only had 33 sacks all last year. Lloyd's the kind of guy who can play a hybrid and also get to the quarterback. He very much reminds me of how Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah did with the Browns. He's a very Troy Polamalu type player. He can actually he can play multiple positions very well, whereas JOK can actually play secondary and linebacker. Devin Lloyd can actually play. He could definitely work anywhere within that front seven. He's not gonna be down lineman, but he could definitely kind of get in off the edge.
Yeah. So, Alex, I want to take this way with you. As a team who has a young quarterback and offensive issues, and I'm not taking shots here. It's just you and I have talked about this a bunch. If this was your pick for your team, because in a couple picks it would have been yours, are you going line or are you going weapon, whether it's running back or because I saw a lot of people mocking the running back or the defensive back from Cincinnati here. I saw a lot of people mocking a running back at some point in time to the Giants. Would you give him a weapon or would you give him protection?
I need to keep him protected. If he's gonna be in my case, my quarterback for the next 10 years, I got to get him to a point where he can see the field and not just be sacked 8 to 10 times a game. So I have to go line as cute as it is to get yourself a nice weapon like what Cincinnati did last year, and yeah, it worked out for them. After seeing the struggles that the Bears had and the Giants had, you got to protect them. There's no other way around it.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there is still offensive line help in free agency, which is why I think I thought of Garrett Wilson here. But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a tough pick for an idiot. I mean, Dave Gettleman to make there. So, sorry, I can't.
Wait, isn't he out?
No. Hold on. Who's the GM of the New York Giants? It is Joe Schoen. He is out. I'm sorry. Well, you know what? If you work with Gettleman, he's just as stupid.
Right.
Wait, is Joe Schoen from New England?
You might be right. Yeah, you could be correct about that.
Guys, they're still using the same playbook they used when Charlie Weiss was there. It's not rocket science. What is wrong with people? Anyways, so we're up to the Carolina Panthers, which would have been one of Willie's picks. Alex, Carolina needs a lot. Me. Oh, that's right. You're the NFC South. I am sorry. Alex, who you got going to Carolina, my friend?
So Carolina needs a quarterback because the Sam Darnold experiment has kind of come and gone. So I think they got to go Malik Willis out of Liberty.
First, drop the mic pick of the night.
Had to do it.
I understand. Jim, which quarterback did you have coming off the board first? Was it him or Kenny?
Kenny.
Yeah, I like Willis's arm talent. I like his pocket presence. There's just something about Kenny Pickett. Plus, I know there's people that want to lay him out for that fake slide in that bowl game.
That's true, too.
But listen, you're not wrong, though. They need a quarterback.
There's still also stuff.
You're not wrong.
I didn't have them going quarterback here just because because of the Deshaun Watson thing, we didn't know where that was going to happen. But you also still have a carousel going on. Is Matt Ryan going to stay? Is Jameis Winston going to stay? You could actually have somebody still move to Carolina to replace Darnold. Could they stick with Darnold as a stopgap, knowing they're not going anywhere for half a year or something?
Yeah, well, the thing is, next year's quarterback class is going to be better.
Right.
You're going to have weaker than what it's been recently. Let's say that, because you don't know what these guys are going to turn into. You don't know if Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis are going to be the next, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, or the next Ryan Leaf and Achilles Smith. That's just mean.
Figure we're talking Seattle quarterbacks tonight. I take this shot.
Wow. I forgot he played for Seattle. I just remember he played for the Jets the year Testaverde blew the Achilles. And I remember Keyshawn Johnson and somebody got into an – huh?
I'll go one step further if we're going to talk Seattle quarterback bust. Anybody remember Dan McGuire?
I do not.
6'10".
Jim, he's a lot younger than us.
6'10", drafted in the top 15 and played 2 years and was out of football, basically.
Well, he was 6'10". He should have been pitching for the Mariners, not playing quarterback for the Seahawks. Was he left-handed? Why do I think he was left-handed? And no, I'm not confusing him with Randy Johnson.
I'd have to go back and research that.
This is killing me, this thing. You guys are like stop motion animation right now. And I brought the extender back here. All right, so let's get to the next pick. That is number 7, the New York Giants from the Chicago Bears in that blockbuster deal last year that brought Justin Fields to Chicago. Alex, let me ask you this before I get the pick done, because I think I'm going to tick you off. Because I'm going to go need here as well. How do you think they have to retailer this offense now that Allen Robinson is in? Not Allen Robinson. Yeah, Allen Robinson is in LA with the Rams. How do they have to tailor this to make this team better?
Well, I think that Eberflus and company have to really hammer it home and make David Montgomery your number one stud. He's got to have the ball 30 to 40 times a game, not 10 to 15 or 20 times a game max. And then from there, you can go out and get yourself your nice, big, shiny wide receiver and, throw the ball all over the field. Because that is a way for you to keep Justin Fields healthy. He's able to see the pocket, he's able to see the field, see his weapons, but also able to, hand it off in case of an emergency.
No, and I agree. I like them to. They don't have a first round pick this year, right?
No.
Okay. I like them to have to make a move like that, but we're gonna have to wait a year. Do they have cap room?
You're waiting on the cap guy, huh?
I lose. Yeah.
We're talking Bears with cap room?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Todd. What are you doing?
31.2 million under the cap.
How are they not players?
I really don't know exactly what they're doing right now. I know that they're Matt, the new Ryan and Matt are basically trying to rectify what the old Ryan and Matt did. So it's going to take years, guaranteed.
Here's what's scary about your Bears.
Well, listen, I think you're set.
Go ahead, Mike.
So I would say, listen, I think you're set at quarterback, though. I think he'll be good once you start building a team around him. So go on. What's going on with the Bears, Jim?
I'm looking up their cap number. They only have 4 players making 10 million or more on their roster.
Are you serious?
Robert Quinn at 17.1, Eddie Jackson at 15 even, Cody Whitehair at 12.3, Nick Foles at 10.6.
And I think from my understanding, they're even trying to put Quinn on the trading block to see if somebody would go out there bite after the year he had last year. So
I'm hearing that as well, yes. So, Foles, Roquan Smith's not even making 10. He's making just under 10, but he's not making 10.
He's essentially the building block of that defense. That's him and only him at this point, because obviously Khalil Mack is gone and Eddie Jackson is somewhat of a Casper on the field. Sometimes he's a ghost, sometimes he's there. So
somewhat of a Casper, he says.
We're not talking Dave either.
That's amazing. Oh, God. So the Giants, I'm actually going defensive back here, and I'm going Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU. One of the better cover corners in the draft. One of the first years we don't have an Ohio State cover corner. I know you don't like them, Jim, but it is one of the first years we don't have an Ohio State cover corner in the going to go in the first round. So, yeah, that's where I go there. The Giants have a lot of problems. And, I'm saying this as my mother-in-law is not here, but it's very true. They have a ton of problems to address in the draft and in free agency, and they really haven't done that. Which is shocking to me because it's a new regime. You think they want to put their stamp on this thing, and they're not. They're very much not. So let's get to number 8, and that's the Atlanta Falcons.
That would be me.
I know, but my hands are up for a reason. What do they do now? Have they ticked Matt Ryan up to the point where they have to draft a quarterback here?
I don't think he's as far gone as like what the situation that Baker Mayfield is in Cleveland. I think that there's a possible chance he sticks around at least one more year. And I think that they're, even though they got a boatload of problems as well too, they always love to pick offense. So I have them picking a wide receiver this year.
Who you got?
I have them taking Drake London out of USC.
Good pick. That's who Jim had as the first receiver off the board.
I could, if I were them and Drake London was on the board, I would basically be sending your fastest player on the roster up there with the card.
Now, here's my question, Jim. Who did you have there? I know what. Huh?
Or I'd be shooting the card out of a T-shirt cannon.
That would be an interesting look. Jim, who did you have them taking there? Since I know you did not have Garrett Wilson as the first receiver off the board.
Atlanta?
Yeah.
I actually had them taking I had them going Drake London.
Did you really? You thought he'd last that long?
Yes. It's because here's why. It's with that Giants pick that you had them going defensive back, I actually had the Giants going Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa to basically shore up the offense. They get their pressure guy on defense with the first pick, and then they circle back and they get their offensive line stud with that second pick, which actually
can't go wrong with a Big Ten offensive lineman.
Exactly. It's and this is actually where I think the teams at the top 10 of the draft are going to load up on trench guys, and Atlanta's really the first one that needs a weapon. And for me, and it's not any slight against the Buckeye boys, Drake London was a man toying with children the last 2 years at USC.
You might want to watch how you say that one.
Man-child toying with children.
There you go.
Champions
that will cover us. I think we'll be safe now. So, Alex, I want to ask you this one more question about Atlanta, and let's go to the next pick in the draft, which is actually Jim's first, which is a Jim pick, the AFC West. In all seriousness, when do they have to go out and get a quarterback? Matt Ryan's 37. They have flirted with Deshaun Watson. I don't know how far Arthur Blank actually got with that whole thing. Can they ride Matty Ice for another season?
I think they do, because as we mentioned just a couple minutes ago, I think that the draft class for quarterbacks is a little bit deeper next year. So you probably take your chances of tanking this year and hoping that you have a high draft pick next year and get yourself a top tier quarterback or your future quarterback. That's just my thought.
Are they bad enough to go after Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud? I think that's really going to become the question.
They could be.
Whether you like it or not, after the Rose Bowl, I think everybody knows Stroud's going to be a stud.
No, I agree with that.
So, Jim, Seattle Seahawks, who take this pick from Denver in the Russell Wilson trade, they've got some needs, man. But this is a tough pick, and gentlemen, because I honestly believe that the Browns will not trade Baker Mayfield in the conference. I believe he will end up in Seattle with Pete Carroll and that offense in DK Metcalf, which no shot at Odell, but let's take it anyway. He'll actually have a number one receiver for the first time in his career too. So, Jim, where'd you go with the Seahawks?
I think this, to me, is my stone cold slam dunk pick of the entire draft. With the 9th pick of the NFL draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Kenny Pickett, quarterback, Pittsburgh. Drew Lock
I figured you were
not
going
the
to.
answer. Baker Mayfield.
Drew Lock is never the answer.
I do not see Seattle trading for Baker Mayfield.
You think he ends up in Indianapolis?
I firmly believe he will either end up in Indianapolis or Carolina.
Okay. While we're on the subject, Alex, where do you think Baker lands?
If I had to pick, I think he's probably going to Indianapolis. I think the relationship is starting to build. There's the rumblings that are kind of there. So probably Indy, but I mean, we've seen what Indy has done to quarterbacks that they've picked up or traded for within the last couple of years, that the relationship sours within a year or two and they find their way out the door. So I hope it goes better than what it did for Wentz.
Yeah, but we all knew Carson Wentz wasn't going to be the answer out there.
No, but I figured it would last at least 3 to 4 years, not a year or two.
That's true. I will say this: there's a lot of people on Brown's Twitter who just are so stir crazy stupid. They actually think that the Browns are going to get a first round pick for him.
Second or third, probably at best.
I'd say third or fourth.
Yeah, most of what I'm hearing is that somebody, if they're going to reach, they're going to give a 2. He's more than likely, just as you said, Alex, it's going to be a 3 or a 4.
But here's the thing: he's a 3 or a 4 because the Browns are bent over a barrel because of the way they handled this. If this would have just been Baker, if Andrew Berry did not come out and say Baker was the man for next year, and then Jimmy has him override him and do this, and it was just, all right, Baker, you know what? We're going to see if there's a chance to to make the team better. We're going to do it, and then we'll accommodate you from there. You handle it that way, and you have leverage because you can say, you know what? We didn't have to make this deal. We think he's the man. We just think this one's better. You have some actual leverage. The Browns have no leverage. There's none. Or they're going to pay a third-string quarterback $18 million next year. This is the situation this move has made for the Cleveland Browns. I'm back on the clock with the New York Jets again, and I'm going to give a shout-out to our buddy Luke Fickle, and I am going to take Sauce Gardner, the defensive back out of Cincinnati, at number 10 to the New York Jets. Listen, the Jets are another team that hasn't had a good defensive back since Revis Island. So this makes a lot of sense for them to do. Gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think the Jets will benefit from going defensive back here, or are we talking about they need something else? Because I toyed with offensive tackle. I toyed with Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. 6'7", 325, can't really ignore that, but I wasn't sure. I felt, again, secondary needs a bigger facelift than the offensive line.
Alex?
Hold on, my video is kind of cutting out here.
Same as mine. It's been doing it the whole time. We're getting storms in New York, so I think that's part of the problem with me.
All right, I think I'm back in now.
Cool.
I have them going I have them going secondary, but I have them going a little different direction. I got Sauce Gardner a little later on. I got them going Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame.
That's a solid pick.
They need a lockdown, but I think actually when you're trying to defend against Josh Allen and Mac Jones, you need a guy who can come over the top in the safety position to lend help rather than actually a shutdown corner on an island, because you're not going to be able to play the receiver in that division on an island. You need to come over the top.
No, I think if you can play lockdown, you can shut down Stephon Diggs.
You cannot shut down Stephon Diggs. You can only hope to contain him, in the words of Stuart Scott.
That wasn't Stu. That was either Olbermann or Dan Patrick.
It was a little bit of Kilborn, but also everyone used that line. I just remember.
Did they? Okay. Yeah, well, I hope Sauce goes booyah first time he picks off one of those two. Alex, I know we've talked about the Jets before, and we've used the term dumpster fire. We've used the term debacle, and we've been trying to be nice about it. From what you know of them, because I know you're kind of Bear centric, just like we're Brown centric. Or Jim's got a few different teams, but I'm Brown centric. Do you think they need to shore up the offense first and go through channels to or free agency and trades to do the defense, or would you kind of mix it up if you had as many picks as the Jets do?
I'm mixing it up. I'm going to try and make myself as competent and relevant as possible. So I got to get a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense to kind of see if we can, stir the pot enough to make sure that we're a relevant organization that plays in, that shared stadium. That's kind of how I look at it.
Okay. So I'm back on the clock again. And guys, like I said, I have the majority of the first round with the two divisions I took because they were such hot garbage. The Washington Commanders, and I didn't do it, and I meant to. I was going to start playing Easy Like Sunday Morning by the Commodores just to see what people did. See what happens when Bill Cosby shows up in Cleveland?
Oh, and it's off the rails.
And the $230 million going to buy a lot of pudding pops. That's all I'm saying.
And it's really off the rails.
Hey, Jim, go farther. Do it now. Do it now.
Got to do the Cosby dance.
Not the Cosby. No, I'm talking about his off the field hobbies.
See, what you got is the two-part mamma jamma and the...
Oh, my God. We're going to get banned from YouTube. Oh, my God. No, I'm talking about where he's going to have his house when he lives out there, Jim.
What are we talking about?
I'm talking about his winter activities in a suburb of Cleveland.
Oh, thank you.
Alex, you got to hear this.
Deshaun Watson's house will not be in Strongsville like a lot of people talk about on the west side of Cleveland. It will be in the city of Hudson, who has great ice fishing.
Alex, someone in politics in the city of Hudson, Ohio said ice fishing leads to prostitution. I am not kidding you. I am dead serious. And the meme came out today, and I shared it with Jim and said, I want to live in Hudson. I hear the ice fishing's on fire.
Oh, my God.
I got to find the clip. And I hope to God there's like a way I can like trim the audio or maybe even get the video of the morning show we had in Cleveland. Basically took that line and did like what the typical radio guy does, and they run with it and they say like one thing and then they play the clip and then they say another thing and they play the clip and they just keep running with it for 5 minutes. It's drive off the road funny. And
oh my God.
Says, if you actually legalize the ice fishing, it leads to shanties being built, and that leads to one thing: prostitution. Oh. And he said it's so deadpan. It's shown up on national news and memes everywhere. And this was the freaking mayor.
That's a bad look.
That's hilarious. That's almost as bad as not being able to eat in your car in South Euclid in the parking lot of a fast food restaurant.
Not necessarily, because remember, we stole that sign.
Do you remember Lanigan?
Adam and I stole that sign off that McDonald's and actually and used it in an AOV match.
Do you remember when Lanigan, Malone, and Webster went to that South Euclid McDonald's, were eating in the car, called the cops, and said, "Come and get us"? Alex, it is what either was or still is legit a law in the city of South Euclid, where my parents live. You cannot eat fast food in the parking lot of the fast food restaurant in your car. The guys on the radio, the morning show on the oldie station, actually went to the McDonald's in South Euclid and called the cops from the car and said, "Come and get us."
Wait, why can't you sit and eat in your car at a fast food?
It's one of those stupid laws because they charge a little bit more to eat inside.
Wow. Okay.
It's one of those laws that you kind of go, really? But when I was listening to it, I was in my father's car and I heard them do that. And my father and I had to pull the car over. We pulled over on Telhurst, Jim. We were laughing so hard we couldn't even drive.
Some of the suburbs in our neck of the woods growing up, Alex, are incredibly stupid. There was that ordinance in South Euclid. The next city over, Cleveland Heights, had parking meters in their parking lots.
Yep.
You couldn't go to a Walmart without having to feed a meter.
What?
Mike,
that's also the birthplace of the Kelseys.
Mike, you also still can't go on Coventry without feeding a meter.
Well, Coventry, I get.
I got pulled over in a suburb, in the very next suburb over, University Heights, for going the normal speed limit on a Sunday morning at 2 a.m., coming home from my girlfriend at the time's house. And I got pulled over by a cop because I was actually doing the normal speed limit. Here's the problem. The school zone light was malfunctioning at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, and they gave me a ticket.
University Heights did that? Duh.
Yes.
All right, let's get back on the rails. I swear that's the last of the pudding pop jokes for now.
Again, you're so adorable. I pinch your cheeks.
So the Washington Commanders, this was a coin flip for me. But I am going to do what I told my coworker Ian, the new guy. He is a Commanders fan, going all the way back to their old name. Not football team, the one before that. You know what? I'm going to flip the coin, and I'm going to say they take Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Whether it's it's Carson Wentz now, and God knows Carson Wentz needs as much help as he can get, but he also needs an offensive line in front of him. He just let Scherf walk. So I think bringing in Penning is going to be a nice move for them. Listen, Northern Iowa ran the football a lot too. He knows how to block for a running back, so I like him here. Jim, who did you have Lionel Richie's team? The Commanders taken?
You're going to love me for this. I had them going Garrett Wilson.
You know, I toyed with that, considering it being all Ohio State wide receiver room with him, McLaurin, and Curtis Samuel.
Exactly, because I figured they need a deep threat for Wentz or Heineke, whoever's lining up under center there.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a big thing there. So I'm also on the clock now with the Minnesota Vikings at 12. And I'm going to go chalk with them and go Did you put Linderbaum somewhere already?
Me?
Yeah.
I had him going to I had Linderbaum at 7 of the Giants.
You know what? Jerk.
You know, we're not playing by any rules. Just go with who you want to go with.
All right, fine.
Wait, Mike, I thought I had the NFC North.
Oh, you do have the North. I'm sorry. I'm so used to picking for everybody. I'm sorry, Alex. It's my fault.
That's fine. I mean, you could throw your pick in there, and I could throw my name.
I would have taken Linderbaum here if he was available, just because the tackles are short up in Minnesota, or they're decent in Minnesota. I would have taken the center. But who did you? I'm sorry, Alex.
No, you're good.
My brain hurts.
No, you're good. I actually, very coincidentally, took a tackle. I took Jordan Davis out of Georgia.
That's a nice move.
That's a good pick.
See, I told you he was good, man.
I mean, I had Davis way down the board in the round, but I could definitely justify that pick.
No, I like that. Especially for them, because they are a running team that has the great wide receivers to go with it. So it's Houston now, and this would have been Willie's pick with the AFC South, but I want to bring up something else that happened recently. You hate to see it, and as much as I don't like his alma mater, you hate to see it, but David Ajabo with the torn Achilles is a huge hit to the first round. So I want to ask you guys to put your GM hats on. Do you take a flyer on him on the second day? put him on your payroll, let him get healthy, and turn him loose next year? Alex, I'll start with you.
I think it's worth it. I know it's detrimental because like you're not going to get anything out of him this year, but I mean, just to have him on your roster, knowing that he's 100% healthy going into the 2023 season, well worth the money as far as I'm concerned.
Jim, I want to spin this a different way. If you're Andrew Berry, do you make this move on day 2?
For David Ojabo?
Yes. Knowing you can't pair him with anybody till next year.
I'm going to give a drop the mic pick here. I'm not going to make the pick because of all the chaos. And I really couldn't justify reseeding the entire second half of the show tonight just off of one, stupid move from Andrew Berry. I still have David Ojabo getting selected in the first round, even with the injury.
Okay.
And Willie's going to love me if you're watching this, my friend. I've got him going to the Raiders.
Do the Raiders have a first round pick?
Yep, they're at 22.
I thought Green Bay took 22 in that move.
Yeah, Green Bay got that pick after the Devontae trade.
Green Bay's got that pick.
Okay, that was actually as of this morning. I haven't updated the draft order since like yesterday at 2:00 when the Deshaun deal went down.
So here, Sporting News actually mocked Trayvon Walker here to Houston.
That's where I actually had him going to Minnesota with Alex's pick, one pick earlier.
Okay.
He better go there because if he goes at 14, there's going to be problems in the AFC North.
Oh.
14's Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
You know what? I am going to go defense for Baltimore, and I'm going to go with George Karlaftis from Purdue. Dominant edge rusher. Listen, if you can edge rush in the Big Ten, you're doing something because that's where the best left tackles have come from in the last 10, 15 years. He was very good against Ohio. I mean, he wasn't very good against Ohio State. He was very good in spurts against Ohio State, but they actually schemed their O-line against him, which I think with a dominant edge rusher you have to do. So, yeah, I like the Greek guy going there to Baltimore, who is going to be nasty next year. He's going to be absolutely nasty. So, wow, I got to pick 3 times in a row because the Eagles go the next 2.
Yeah, 15 is from the Dolphins, and then 16 is from the Colts, right?
Yep.
Let's go 15, and let's get him off the board with the 15th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. The Philadelphia Eagles select Chris Olave, wide receiver, the Ohio State. Gentlemen, here's a piece of trivia that I love about this guy. He now is the holder of the most touchdowns in Ohio State history as a wide receiver. The guy who is third on that list is in the Hall of Fame, Chris Carter. David Boston, who had the huge game against Miami, the jersey that Jim is wearing. Jim, enlighten us with what player that is, please.
Ray?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a Ray Lewis Miami jersey, speaking of character.
My all-time favorite defensive player. Eric Dickerson's my all-time favorite player, period. Ray Lewis is number 2, and I know before. We're gonna jump back, but it's not gonna be a Cosby joke. But it's I understand this could be highly hypocritical of me wearing this, considering what happened yesterday. But the long story short was I always loved Ray Lewis. For me, he was the greatest defensive player I've ever seen, and I even grew up during LT because Ray actually had the ability to drop back into coverage that LT didn't. He could get after the quarterback just as well. And I asked for one, for my birthday for my brother, and he throws this at me and he says, "I will never buy you anything purple and black." And he also understands that I'm a Florida Gator fan and I hate Miami. So he basically jabbed the knife in and twisted it around twice.
That is a sweet jersey, though.
It is a sweet jersey, but it would have been like me sending you the Blocko Big Rican shirt, which I almost did.
I'm still trying to figure out how I can actually copy it and have 10 made if you did.
So you could burn them all in front of me?
One per episode. They would have been
light on fire.
They would have been different. One would have been fire. One would have actually been like, you know, in the oven. One would have been Hulk Hogan. We'd have made a segment out of it.
Nice. Nice. So the Eagles have the next pick as well. And I'm going to go Devontae Wyatt, the D tackle out of Georgia for them here. People have mocked him at 19 to them. I'm going to move up and get him now. Listen, is that the dude at the combine that ran like the 4 whatever for a giant man?
Yes.
Yeah, take him. Take him and light Daniel Jones up. Did I say that?
Mike,
okay.
Did you steal my analysis?
To light Daniel Jones up, or to take him because of how quick he is?
You said that people had him going at 19. I got him going at 19.
Well, yeah, because I have the Sporting News mock draft here just because I'm watching the order that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it, and a lot of the picks make sense. I just would take him here because I think you have the Chargers next, who you could pair him with Joey Bosa, and that would be scary. You have the Saints, who they have here Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett's off our board. He's an option there, and then he's at 19. I take him here, and I almost go I'll tell you where I'll go next. So who's got the AFC West? That's you, right, Jim?
No, that would have been Willie.
All right, so it's the Chargers at 17.
I got one for you.
Who's that?
Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, the defensive end.
Damn it.
That's a nice one.
Because I had him going at 15 to the Jets, and then I had Sauce Gardner right behind him.
I mean, like we said, we can toy around with this, throw anybody anywhere.
Yeah, and the Sporting News had Jordan Davis, the D tackle out of Georgia, here to the Chargers, who was phenomenal last year. He was big in the national championship game, which, by the way, I watched tape on. I didn't actually watch because I don't watch Alabama unless they're playing my boys. 18 to the Saints. Now, this is interesting. And I want to throw this name out here. How would Desmond Ridder look in New Orleans?
He'd look good, but let me throw a name out here that's going to scare the living crap out of you.
Who's that?
They re-sign Jameis Winston and go Treylon Burks, the receiver out of Arkansas, to pair with Michael Thomas as 2 6'3" guys with 4.4 speed.
You know what? The other guy I thought of here was Jameson Williams. The other guy I thought of here was Jameson Williams to do just that.
I thought I was going back and forth with Williams, but when it all came down to it, I thought Burks with the size advantage just works a little bit better with him, especially with Michael Thomas coming back.
Yeah, that's definitely in Kamara coming out of the backfield. Alex, with what you know about New Orleans, who would you take here? Would you take the quarterback? Would you go defense?
No, I'm protecting my whoever's going to be my quarterback, and I take Tyler Smith out of Tulsa because Teron Armstead's potentially walking in free agency. So that's the
listen. Tulsa played Ohio State this year. That kid's good.
That's where I had him there.
That kid's good.
It could be wishful thinking. I don't know that the Saints will necessarily go that route, but I just had him there in case that you get a healthy Jameis back, or you maybe find your way and lucky enough to get a Baker Mayfield. You want to protect him.
I want to give a shout out to John Motley, who actually does a lot of stuff with the Shakeback Media Group with Willie, helps run it. He actually lives in Louisiana, and he said Saints fans prefer Baker to Jameis or to Deshaun Watson. I say no only because look what it took Sean Payton to unlock Drew Brees, and Sean Payton's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So we're back to the I'm sorry. Go on, Jim.
Although if you think could the Baker to New Orleans thing pick up a little bit of steam? Because think about it, every time they get displaced, where do they end up going? Oklahoma City.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, fair point.
So we're back to me at 19 and the Philadelphia Eagles.
With their 22nd pick of the first round.
Good God knows. I'm going to go offensive guard and go Kenyon Green from Texas A&M.
Okay.
Listen, Jalen Hurts needs all the help he can get. So let's shore up the line and make sure he don't have to run for his life. Next would be, oh God.
You know what? I had Green falling just out of the first round, but I can make a serious argument for that. He gets extremely explosive out of his stance. He's a very, very good pass blocker. He pulls well. The only drawback on him is that the reason why I wouldn't necessarily go with him is that they say his biggest issue is in the run game. He's so explosive. He falls forward when he tries to run block, and guys can shed him a little bit easier.
Yeah, but that's coachable, Jim. That's coachable depending on who your offensive line coach is.
It is, but it's something where you want a guy who's probably a little bit more established to put in that kind of faith as a guard pairing with a young quarterback like that. If it were something where I think Hurts would be in the league a couple of more years, then maybe they can actually, afford to take that chance with Green. But as much as Hurts likes to run, I would think that they probably want some guy who can stay home a little bit more. Even though, again, he's great in the pass game, it's just if it was a little bit more of a pocket presence out of Jalen Hurts, I would have no problem with them going Green here.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Let me ask you this, though. With the explosiveness off the ball, and I'm going to ask Alex this one, would you move a guy like that to left tackle?
I would be just a tad bit hesitant, but I mean, if I guess it's worth the experiment to see if it works out.
Okay. I mean, it's almost like if he's a better pass blocker, you want to protect in the blind side. But I get where you're coming from. Guard to tackle is probably not the easiest thing to do, especially with no help on the outside. But that actually didn't enter my mind until Jim just said that he was that explosive out of his stance. So unfortunately, James, as mad as I am at the team from our town, I have to pick for Pittsburgh now.
Oh, make it a good one, Mike. Make it a good one. Come on.
With the 20th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select anybody. Who cares? No, in all seriousness.
Hingle McCringleberry.
I'm torn here, but I'm going to take the wide receiver that not Jameson Williams, the other one. Who's out there? The kid from Arkansas that you were. Yeah, I'm going to put him there, especially. I mean, I think one of the under the radar moves is that Juju's in Kansas City.
Yeah, and that just came down earlier today or late last night?
Yes, late yesterday. And listen, Juju's back to what we knew he always was, which is a second fiddle to Tyreek Hill.
If you want to throw Travis Kelce in there, he's actually now a third option.
Yeah, well, Kelsey's a different animal. It's like having Gronk. It's a different animal. And I just love that Kelce goes high every time he does something good. I do. I think it's great. No, they both do it. Him and his brother. I think it's great. So now you get to pick for the other team I wish would go away, James. And you are on the clock at 21 with the New England Patriots.
Yes. With the 21st pick, I am going Trent McDuffie, quarterback, Washington.
You know what? I thought him or Nakobe Dean here from Georgia.
Trent McDuffie, he's not shut down, but he's very, very good in coverage. And that playoff game in Buffalo just really showed how out of sync their secondary is when they're actually matched up against, guys who can get separation.
Alex, let me ask you this. New England's been a perennial playoff team since 2001, 21 years. Do you almost want to find Mac Jones some more targets, or would you shore up a defense that now has to deal with offenses, deal with Buffalo on the offensive side of the ball?
I am probably going to settle more with the defense, especially when you consider that the Patriots lost their stud in J.C. Jackson.
That's right. He left.
Yeah. So I got to go defense. I know that you want to make Mac Jones look fantastic out there, but I mean, it's got to start with the defense. And maybe that's just because I'm a little bit partial to, the defensive side of the ball. But I got to shore up the defense first.
No, I listen. There's not a wrong answer to that question. I'm just looking for preference here. I love that you want to give him defense, especially with what are they going to do with Stephon Gilmore? Have they pissed him off enough yet?
I don't know, but I mean, there's a chance that they might try to move him, or I wouldn't be surprised if they try to move him.
Okay.
Let's also keep in mind here with New England that they're not really going to go out and get the big flashy receiver, like they did in free agency with Randy Moss. Between, Mac Jones and any guy from Alabama with the system that they put in, and then, with that plug and play mentality of Saban, and then also, kind of from the same quote unquote, tree with Belichick, you could plug anybody in there and get productivity out of them in that offense.
Which leads me to the 22nd pick. And Alex, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I know you don't want to do this. Like I didn't want to do number 20. But you are on the clock, sir. And what are you doing here? Because I'll tell you what I would do if I'm them. Mm-hmm. If Gunther has a brain in his skull. Mm-hmm. What are you doing here besides trading Aaron Rodgers for a hoagie?
So as much as it pained me to make this pick, it gave me a little bit of joy because I'm going to fill a gap in wide receiver because they now have a big hole in wide receiver. And I'm going to go Jahan Dotson out of Penn State because all you have now is Randall Cobb and who's that? Alan Lazard,
who's good, but good. I get
He's
you.
Good. But yeah, Jahan.
I would have gone Jameson Williams here, but I understand why you went Jahan Dotson.
Okay, Mike, you and I actually talked about this last night. I actually even told you. I said, it's Alex. I had him going. At 28 with their original pick, Jahan Dotson. It's just something about his speed when he gets into his cuts that he can get separation.
And it's just from my perspective, as much as I can't stand Aaron Rodgers, whoever he has out there on offense, as far as weapons, he makes them all look good. So there's no doubt in my mind that, yes, it's going to probably pain them to see Javonte wearing different colors, but it's just next man up for this team. It always is. And until Rodgers walks, that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you figure they haven't taken a first round wide receiver since Sterling Sharp.
What year was that? Because I was looking up a stat. I seen that the last time they took a wide receiver was 2002 and Javon Walker.
Oh, it was Javon Walker. I'm sorry. The time before that was Sterling Sharp. I want to say that was like 88, 89.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
I'm I would have gone Jamison Williams here because what people forget, he did have his breakout at Alabama. He was a Buckeye. He can play in the weather. But Jahan Dotson went to Penn State, so that's definitely a place that could that gets the weather there. So he'll be able to play hopefully in Green Bay. You're on the clock, Mr. James, with the Arizona Cardinals.
With the 23rd pick, I have the Arizona Cardinals going cornerback Andrew Booth out of Clemson.
Really?
He plays zone probably better than any secondary player coming out of this draft, and he hits like a safety, which means he's going to be able to break up any pass, unless he actually gets burned. He's got decent closing speed, but if he's playing zone and he's actually got to if he's got to play that safety corner hybrid where he actually has to either get separation on the on the boundary, he's going to be able to break those passes up.
Yeah, I don't think his closing speed is as good as you think it is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think it's more of a safety corner as opposed to a lockdown corner that they're looking for here.
Ask Jamison Williams and Olave how fast he is because he couldn't catch them either. I don't think any game brought me more joy in the last 2 years than that spanking they put on Clemson in that Sugar Bowl.
I don't think any game brought me any more than the year before that where they didn't even score.
That wasn't the year before that. That was 2016.
Whenever. Doesn't matter. It was 31-0.
Shut up.
I think Bill Cosby just scored again against them.
That was him, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. That was his coming out party. Shut up. Shut up. You're going to get us banned. Save it for next week.
Oh, sorry.
I can't believe I said it. Son of...
How do I segue into the next pick? Someone tell me how I segue into the next pick.
And with the next pick, we have the Dallas Cowboys.
Here's another team. You know what? I'm going to pull the trigger. With the 24th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Jamison Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. Listen, the Browns fleeced them for Amari Cooper. I mean, he fleeced them. And to pair him, is it Judy or is it who is it that they picked last year?
Who's that?
Dallas?
Yeah.
CD Lamb? No?
CD Lamb, yep.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm opening this notebook, Alex, because in here I have our mock draft from last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Memories.
It's all right here. But yeah, no, Jamison Williams here. Listen, you paid Dak Prescott all that money. You have a decent offensive line. You have a two-headed monster at running back in Zeke and what's the other dude's name?
Tony Pollard.
And Tony Pollard. You lost your best receiver to a deal because you weren't going to pay him the money he wanted. So I think you got to go wide receiver here, and you got to go with Jamison Williams. He will be the best available at that point in time if Jahan Dotson goes to Green Bay at 22. James, you are back on the clock, my friend. The 25th pick, the Bills Mafia. Who are we making them happy enough to put you through a table for?
Well, I mean, you stole one of my picks earlier. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you who I projected and now the readjustments. I originally had them projected going Jordan Davis here.
Okay.
I said with their offense and their secondary and their linebacker set, they were looking to dominate the entire AFC on both sides of the ball by going in the trench. With them actually now landing Vaughn the other day, I could see them potentially taking a flyer on David Ojabo here. I figured they've got enough talent in their front seven. They can afford to take a flyer on the assumption that he actually heals that ACL in the way that OBJ did, where he's back in 8 months, which actually means he's ready for the stretch drive for them.
It's not ACL. He did the Achilles. It's definitely going to be a year.
Okay, well, yeah, it's they're so set right now that it's I could definitely see because every year you get that top tier guy who's going to slide, whether it's a character issue or he has a bad showing in a combine or he gets that last minute injury. And I think this is where a Jabo slides down the board. And I think Buffalo, if he's on the board, even though it might be a day two type thing, you cannot pass up this guy in terms of his talent. If he was healthy, he would have been off the board an hour ago on this show.
Absolutely. I had him in the top 5. And I'm glad to see him go. Because I got the Buckeye shorts on right now. Tennessee, AFC South. What does Tennessee really need?
From what I'm actually seeing here, what I compiled over about 3 or 4 different mocks, linebacker, tight end, cornerback, offensive line, wide receiver in no particular order, but primarily linebacker.
Well, Sporting News has that Boye Mafe, the guy from Minnesota, going here.
I would probably go with Devin Lloyd out of Utah, linebacker.
Okay, if Devin Lloyd's there, you go Devin Lloyd.
Yeah,
I like him,
there.
by the way. I really do. You know who else I like, and I want someone to take a flyer on? That kick returner from Utah. I love him.
Okay. Although I actually do like the fact that all 3 of us have the same mindset because I went Nakobe Dean out of Georgia.
Okay, you took Nakobe Dean here. Okay.
Yeah, because David Long is a UFA after this year. They got to actually find somebody to fill that void.
That's very true. That's very true. So Tampa is next. And
let's see, where's my list at? Oh, Mike, were you gonna make a pick here? Because
I wasn't gonna make a pick here. Jim, Cavs won.
They better have, considering who they were playing.
Yeah, I know. I just figured I'd tell you.
How big was it?
4 points. It was 113-109.
They come back from 15 down to beat Denver, and now this is the 3rd win against Detroit by less than 5 points this year.
We talked about teams that just have their numbers, i.e. the Miami Marlins, who, by the way, today signed Miguel Soler. Sorry. Alex, before we're done, I'm asking you about Carrasco. Or not Carrasco, Correa. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
You got it.
Who are you taking here for, again, Tampa Bay? Can he go away, please?
I would like him to, but he's not. He's basically a cyborg and will continue to play for the next.
He's the Hertz commercial.
Yes, he really is. But I'm getting him some protection. I mean, they had Ali Marpet just retire, and then I was reading a while back. Jensen and I think Alex Kappa, both linemen, are also going to potentially test free agency sometime in the near future. So I got Zion Johnson, lineman out of Boston College.
That's a good pick.
That's a good pick, man.
I had him going to Pittsburgh.
You have him going to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, because I figure he could play any part. He could play any position on that line, and Pittsburgh needs all the help that they can get right now. That's
true. And if the Sporting News had Lewis signed from Georgia, the safety.
Yep.
You know, Whitehead left, and they still have Antoine Winfield, but he can smack dudes around, according to what they're saying.
I'll drop the mic again. I had them going Matt Corral.
They've got Trask on the roster.
I forgot about Trask, but I got a feeling
you're a Gator fan.
I understand I'm a Gator fan, and Trask was great, but it was something that there was just something about Corral, just actually watching him play with some of the SEC games. He's got such a quick release that he can get the ball out no matter where and really quick and warmer client. The warmer the game, the faster he seems to get the ball out.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I got a surprise for you. So we get to Green Bay again at 28. And Alex, let me see who you got, and then I'm going to throw something in there that Jim is going to want to throw something at me for.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to explain it and give reason why.
Okay.
Who you got?
So I, just by what has happened recently with their defense and them letting go of Zadarius Smith, I went Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. They need a linebacker.
I like that. They have him as a DN, but I can see him as a 3-4 linebacker.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They think he's listed as an edge rusher, but yeah.
Flex. Jim, I'm going to go Homer here, and I'm going to give Aaron Rodgers Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end out of Ohio State. For one reason and one reason only.
Yeah.
He needs weapons. Rucker is basically the closest thing to a Travis Kelce type that we have seen in the draft in several years. He's a great pass catcher. He can block. For what's the running back's name, Alex? I can't remember right now. Is it Jones?
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He can block. You've seen him lay trap blocks on big O linemen playing for Ohio State and Travion Henderson and J.K. Dobbins and those boys. But he is an underrated weapon as a pass catcher. I love him here. It's probably a reach at 28, but Jeremy Ruckert could be a very big piece of an offense with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. So, Jim, smack me around if you want, but what do you think of my explanation?
I think you're right on here. I do. I don't actually have any tight ends going in the first round, but I'm glad that you brought up Ruckert because he was on a short list. I've got a couple of guys who I didn't actually think, were just outside, or if you guys stole some picks. I thought Rucker had the potential to sneak into the first round here. I thought, for me personally, the only tight end who could have distanced himself from the pack would have been Trey McBride out of Colorado State. He needs to run some better routes. Trey McBride actually has fantastic hands and he's a fantastic blocker. But if we're actually talking in that Green Bay scheme, you are correct. Jeremy Rucker is a much better fit because he's a better offensive tight end than McBride actually would be to shore up the line.
Yeah, I mean, when we went wide receiver for them, and basically that was the consensus across the three of us with their early pick, it just kind of popped in my head. I was like, Jim will be honest with me and tell me if I'm just being a homer. But yeah, no, I like him there. So 29, the Miami Dolphins. Jim, make your pick, and then I'm going to drop the mic on you.
Originally, I had them going Jameson Williams, but for my forecast is that Tua works well in warm weathers that with receivers even he can't overthrow, and that's what Williams would be in spades for him. But if we're actually going letter of the law by us taking guys off the board, I'm actually going to. I don't want to say that this is a little bit of a shock, but I have them going Isaiah Spiller, the running back out of Texas A&M.
I like that move.
He picks up blitzes. He picks up the blitz very, very well. He's only 6'1". He's as wide as he is tall. He ran for 1,036 yards last year. He had 6 100-yard games. He was a Doak finalist. It's and he's head and shoulders the best running back in this draft. And Miami's one of the few teams out there looking for a running back. And the fact that we're actually now at pick 29 and finally a back is coming off the board here.
Yeah. Alex, what would you do to help Tua?
I probably would give him some line help. I think now that I'm looking at it, I had some picks on the side here that I made. I went where is it? Trevor Penning out of Northern UNI.
I gave him to Minnesota, I think.
And that's why I didn't mention anything, but that's who I had because with Tua kind of struggling to throw the ball, and I know they're going to lean heavy on a run game, and I figured they would probably pick somebody up in free agency, and I would think that they probably would want to get somebody to bolster their line to open up some holes for whoever was going to be getting the ball out of the backfield.
You ready to drop the mic, Jim?
Bring it on.
Matt Corral, quarterback, Ole Miss.
In Miami?
Yep.
So let's actually see here. That would have gone from Tannehill to Tua to Coral in a span of 4 years.
And
I know there's somebody else in there. What was Josh Rosen?
Fitzpatrick.
Fitz.
And Josh Rosen, for that matter.
Yeah.
Listen, I have never liked Tua. Never. Tua's numbers were in college anyway, were a product of them playing no one who could play with them. When he played teams who could play with them, his numbers were terrible. He is an injury risk. Not that Coral's not after the bowl game, but the guy was handed the Heisman Trophy after playing in a game he wasn't schemed against because he made one good throw on a busted coverage. Because he wasn't that good in that game until that throw. That was more about Georgia choking than it was about Alabama winning that game. I don't feel that he's a good fit in the NFL. His brother might be a better fit. But no, if I'm Miami here and I've got a new regime in place and the GM did not pick the quarterback, I am going with a quarterback, and I take Matt Corral here. I love the quick release. They do need line help, so the quick release from Corral will be definitely a great thing. Listen, call me biased, call me whatever you want to. I've never hid the fact that I've never believed in this quarterback. Never wished him well, but never believed in him. So I take quarterback here.
Let me throw something at both of you guys, and I want to get your honest to goodness opinions here. Okay. Mike, you got Matt Corral coming off the board.
Mm-hmm.
If Miami does go quarterback here, if they actually decide to blow up the Tua experiment, Matt Corral or Sam Howell, because you can make a case for either. I like. I mean,
where did Sam Howell go to school?
Sam Howell was North Carolina.
I go Corral.
Here's the argument I make on both of them before I actually get your answer, and I'm not trying to sway your opinion here. Corral with the size and the quick release, but he played it at Ole Miss. Sam Howell at UNC, immediately you're going to think Mitch Trubisky. He's also only 6'1", just like Tua, but he was second-team All-ACC as a junior and third-team All-ACC sophomore. Correct me if I'm wrong. Both of those years, Trevor Lawrence was ahead of him, and that's why he wasn't first team in both of those years.
Was he first team this year?
He was second team this year.
So who was the quarterback that was second team All-ACC Lawrence's last season?
I missed that. I want to say it was
the kid from Virginia Tech, or the kid from Virginia.
No, it was a kid from Virginia.
Yeah. I go Corral. I like the quick release with the bad line.
Because the argument I can make with Howell here is, same size as Tua, but he's less likely to run and sit in the pocket. He's the anti-Tua, anti-Baker.
Yeah, I still go Corral.
Alex?
I got to go Corral as well, too. In good conscience, I can't take any quarterback out of UNC. I've had bad experience. That's just me. And I know that there's absolutely no correlation to Mitch Trubisky here, but I just can't in good conscience.
Speaking of Mitchell, Mike, how nice is it going to be to beat up a quarterback from the state of Ohio playing in black and urine next year?
I'm more on the fact that he went to Mentor, and I can't stand them either. Trubisky went to high school against teams I played against.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he went to Mentor High School. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Last mention of something factually accurate about Deshaun Cosby tonight. remember the Browns were targeting Trubisky, and that was a lot of big talk that year. And now he's actually playing for Pittsburgh. And now, what's the irony of them getting Watson? They traded that pick the year before to Houston, and Houston took Watson. Now they're paying $230 million and giving up the entire future and landed him because they traded that pick guy that they did to the guy that Watson is now replacing.
I mean, let me say this. Did he get up and watch draft day that morning? This is the Sonny Weaver deal without the backtrack to screw Seattle to take the bad quarterback.
Now I want pancakes.
You know, I'm going to call you next week, Jim, just for that.
If you call me at 4:30 in the morning, like Sonny Weaver did, I will drive up to New York and what did you tell me when you took your lumps for the Buckeye game? I'm going to whip that ass.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, I'm talking about the last negotiation scene, what he calls him to get him to do the deal.
Yup.
The PEMF. So we move on to the Kansas City Chiefs at number 30. But who are the chefs?
Still one of the greatest commercials ever.
That really was. Alex, do you remember that one?
What's that again?
It was a Snickers commercial. They were painting the end zone in Kansas City. He goes, hey, the lineman comes up to him. I don't remember who the lineman was. He goes, hey, the paint looks great, but who are the chefs?
Oh, yes, I do remember that commercial.
And it was have a Snickers, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Kansas City, listen, the rich got richer. Juju Smith-Schuster goes back to his normal spot, and he's a second to third option in an offense, which, hey, listen, he's a great second or third option to have. And if you like TikTok, he's even better. I can't stop taking shots at him.
Who's going to put out better TikToks, Jackson Mahomes or Juju Smith?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Although Jackson's moving to LA. They're speaking of TikToks. Jackson Mahomes is moving to LA, and someone made one where they told him to move to Crenshaw and wear blue.
Oh.
Or was it Chiefs? Or no, it was the other way around. It was where Chiefs red. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, but let's also think of this. We enjoyed Juju getting blown up in this division. Now he actually has to go out to the division where all they do is look to put you on a stretcher when you're in the secondary.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him. But listen, Patrick Mahomes is the kind of quarterback who throws you open. Ben wasn't like that. For as good as he was, Mahomes is a better QB than Ben. So I think he'll thrive there. But if we had to give them a need, the Kansas City Chiefs, what are we talking about? Because after the Super Bowl, of course, they retooled the entire offensive line. They let Tyrann Mathieu walk.
Really?
Yeah, the Honey Badger's gone.
I heard that was up in the air as of last night.
Unless he decided to go back. Last I knew, Honey Badger wasn't signed. He was released.
He just signed with the Niners today.
Wow.
Yeah. So, me personally, gentlemen, I'll take the first shot. I take that Scene kid from Georgia here if he's not gone.
I don't think he is. I think that's a good pick.
Jim, what do you think?
I originally had them going Kyer Elam, but the more I think about it, since it is the back end of the first round, I kind of like the idea of Roger McCreary out of Auburn a little bit more, the cornerback. I think he's got closing speed, and he's possibly the best in the draft for changing directions on the fly. He basically makes cuts and doesn't lose his speed at all. It's like his hips and his knees were cloned from Barry Sanders for the way that he can move.
That's very true. And I'm looking down, flipping through Twitter, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see if I've seen anything else. So yeah, I think we're all in agreement. They need to go defense, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 31 is the out of nowhere. AFC Super Bowl representative, Cincinnati Bengals. This is me again. And I am going to say this. Whereas last year during the draft, I said that Joe Burrow was dead when they didn't take an offensive lineman, I'm going to say this. They won't get back to the Super Bowl unless they shore up the secondary. Look, as good as Stafford and Cooper Kupp were, they should have won that game. Their secondary let them down in the fourth quarter. You took Booth, you said already, Jim?
Out
of Clemson?
Yeah, I had Andrew Booth going 23rd to the Cardinals.
That's right.
But go wherever you want, dude.
Well, no, I want to try and keep this as authentic as possible. So let me take a look at who we got on here. Stingley, Hamilton, they all went. How about Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State? The strong safety. Slide him into that secondary, be the enforcer over the middle. He played well last year. He was one of the few defensive backs who did not get exposed against, and I go back to Ohio State because that's the only time I watched Penn State. One of the few defensive backs that did not get exposed last year against Ohio State was Brisker. He played very well. He can come up in the box and play the run if you need to. Big dude, very quick. I like him there. Staying in Big Ten country. Jim, what do you think here with these guys?
I think they actually stay local here, and I think they actually try and shore up the offensive line because with secondary in this division, it's usually something either you get a guy high in the draft or you fix it in free agency. I actually had them going Darian Kinnard, the offensive lineman out of Kentucky, because that Super Bowl exposed just how porous they are up front.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you there. But they have made some moves. They've been talking about free agency being that way. Alex, I want to ask you this one. We all talked about the Super Bowl. We talked about the aftermath. Are you more leaning towards fixing the secondary, or are you fixing that Swiss cheese offensive line first?
I am going offensive line, and I got Nick Petit-Frere out of Ohio State.
Nicholas Petit-Frere.
Yeah,
like
Petit-Frere. Offensive tackle.
Now, listen, he had his moments, too, against the Jabbo, where he got left on an island, didn't play, and same thing with Hudson, didn't play very well. But he's a good run blocker. He's a decent pass blocker. So let's see how he does. I do like that move. Homer notwithstanding, he's a good offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
So last pick in the first round. And it is for Alex.
It is I. The Detroit Lions are just there's something else with Dan Campbell and company.
I like Dan Campbell though.
I think he has the potential to really turn that team around. And I know the name has kind of been thrown around a couple times here as we've talked here. But I went into Kobe Dean at a Georgia linebacker. I think they need to shore up that defense, and I think that he's a centerpiece that they can kind of build around.
Jim, I'm taking the kid from Carolina here.
You're going to go Sam Howell?
I'm going Sam Howell here because God knows Jared Goff is not it.
I actually was on the same wavelength. I went Malik Willis.
You had Malik Willis falling to 32.
It's possible.
Just something about him. I actually think the mechanics of Coral and Pickett were far and away better than Willis. I actually didn't see a whole lot of Willis. I mean, sure, he had a great combine and not just a small school, thing, but golf is not the answer. I just think in the scheme of everything, with the fact of how elusive Willis can be, especially playing in that dome 8 games a year, I think he could be a lot more explosive if they're not going to commit to golf and he doesn't have a bounce back year. And let's also be honest, Detroit is notorious for making very, very questionable moves with first-round draft picks.
Listen, last year I know it fell in their lap, but taking Penny Sewell was a big move.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Sure. Well, yeah, because you and I thought they were going to screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that concludes the first round of the NFL draft.
Only 7 more to go. Who's ready for 3 a.m.?
Shut up. Dude, I had to take a nap today because I was up so early with Bobby. But Madden 22 is on Game Pass on the Xbox. I was playing that a little bit. It's god-awful.
Thank you for letting me know because it's on sale on Stadia this week, and I was almost going to pick it up.
I don't know how Stadia plays, but all I know is you throw a slant to anybody that's not an 85 or better wide receiver, it's either getting slapped away or picked.
Wow.
Like I did the face of the franchise thing, and they take your character instead of Zach Wilson. So I ended up on the Jets. And I'm playing the first game against Carolina, and Jamison Crowder had 2 steps on the defensive back, and I threw it right on time. In every other Madden game, this ball is in his hands and it's a first down. I don't know how, but the defensive back cut in front of him and swatted it away, and it was intercepted.
Wow.
There is no defensive back on Carolina that can outrun Jamison Crowder, but that's not the point of that. The point is, it's actually the Madden Ultimate Team is actually fun on there because that's like Diamond Dynasty on the show. And you can build out your guy. I like the storyline this time a little better. But Campus Legends is not on it, so there's that. Couple things I want to talk about quick before we wrap up. I want to do that in a few minutes because it's been pushing 2 hours. Let's do a little baseball. Carlos Correa to Minnesota. What is going on with the world?
Are you asking me, Mike?
I'm asking the world.
You're asking the world. Okay, so I'm going to give you.
I'll start with you, though, dude.
I don't get it. I don't understand exactly what Minnesota is doing. You give up Donaldson, you give up a couple other pieces, and you just kind of, you bring in Urshela and then Gary Sanchez. But
that's an interesting offense, though, with those guys. And who's the right fielder for them?
Is it not Kepler?
It is. That's interesting. Middle of the lineup with Kepler, with Sanchez, with Gio Urshela, and Correa. That's an interesting middle of the lineup.
It is, but is Correa also going to start for them as well too? Is he going?
Oh, their pitching is terrible.
Okay.
I'm just saying the lineup is interesting.
No, it definitely is. And then I was looking at the contract earlier this morning because the deal happened late last night or whenever. He can opt out after each year.
Yeah, the Mets did the same thing with Cespedes.
Okay, so I'm almost willing to assume that he's probably going to walk after this first year when he realizes, oh wow, they're god awful.
No, I think he's going to walk after this year. Now that it's not going to be a huge shortstop market next year.
That's possible. I mean, he got himself a nice hefty paycheck, so he's making close to $30 million a year.
Something like that.
He's got the highest average annual value for an infielder. He is getting more money than Francisco Lindor, which is what he wanted. And then I want to do this and take my hat off. Freddie Freeman to the Los Angeles Dodgers, like you called it. I did
call it like 6 months ago.
You did. Jim, I don't know if you saw that one, but we did one before the first of the year, and he called Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers.
I think I actually caught half of that show, but yeah, I remember that. And then it also came up with the show with John.
Yes, it did, because I was saying I like that. So I'm going to throw one last question out at you boys for football. Did you see that the Bill's contract next year is only for $1 million on his base salary?
Whose contract?
Vaughn.
Cosby.
Oh,
I said Bill.
okay. I thought you said Bills.
No, Bill. How much do you want to bet we are going to see a season where Baker Mayfield suits up for the Indianapolis Colts and Mr. Cosby doesn't play at all?
I think that's absolutely a possibility.
I got to check something. Jim, do you have the Brown schedule there?
Well, the schedule hasn't officially been released yet.
Don't the Colts go to? I was reading. I think I read someplace that the Colts go to Cleveland this year.
That's what I'm looking for.
Holy crap! St. Peter's reached the Sweet 16.
Wow. So did Michigan.
Yeah, that was a great game. Although they're all is right with the world. Kentucky goes out in the first round.
Isn't it beautiful? How'd my boys do? Or did they not play today?
They're tomorrow. They get Villanova. So bye.
I don't know. Alex, was your what the hell Baylor thing before because they lost to Carolina?
No, it was they were down 25 and came back to tie it and went into overtime.
They lost by 7.
Yeah, I did see that they lost, but
okay, I've got it here. Go ahead.
Memphis is up 10 on Gonzaga at half.
That's par for the course. Gonzaga will be out tonight.
Yeah. According to the press release on clevelandbrowns.com, Browns will square off against opponents from the AFC East, NFC South, and the usual suspects from the AFC North. The Browns will flex 3 games against the Chargers at home, the Texans away, and the Commanders. They will play 9 road games. Browns will travel for Atlanta, Carolina, Buffalo, Miami, and then from the AFC East, in addition to their flex games against Texans and Washington, they will host Tampa, New Orleans, New England, the Jets, the Chargers, and then naturally they're back and forth with the division.
They got to go to Houston?
Yeah, they got to go to Houston.
Oh, I hope they boom out of the.
They got to go to Houston. They got to go to Houston, and they got to go to Orchard Park. Please let that game be late in the year so we have 1.5 feet of snow on the ground.
And that was the last thing I wanted. So if he's not suspended for the year, he's going to miss a good chunk of time. So, gentlemen, let's wrap this up. Jim, as you alluded to earlier, next week the Wise Guys show will be on the JC Blue Note channel, so we can get a little blue on it. I won't be uploading that audio for the fans there.
Why not?
Because I don't have a channel that's not made for kids. I have a niece and nephew who listen to this every week.
If there was a way for you to like if we had like a Dropbox or something, or if I like gave you my Google password and let you go into my account, I could probably like edit the audio and just throw bleeps in there. It'd take me a day or two, but I could do it.
Go ahead. I'll set it up and I'll send the audio file to you to do that, and then we can upload it.
Real quick. 2 very, very quick things I wanted to bring up, like 30 seconds each. The one baseball move that I saw that I liked, what do you think of Chris Bryant to Coors Canaveral?
I have no clue what they're doing. I have no clue. Why, if you're going to bring in Bryant and spend that money, do you trade Nolan Arenado and not re-sign Trevor Story?
And also pay his salary to the St. Louis Cardinals and Arenado.
It's ridiculous. This scratches my head more than Correa to Minnesota, because I can understand it because they offered him the most money. This blows my mind.
Now you leave me with a conundrum. Do I wear the Cardinal shirt next week, or do I wear the Adam Cole shirt next week?
Adam Cole, baby.
Adam, if you wear Adam Cole, I'm buying a For the Brand t-shirt.
I was almost going to wear the Adam Cole tonight, and I actually figured this is the only piece of college merchandise I own. Mike, I'm actually also going to gloss your boy McAfee. First of all, he's got a match coming up at WrestleMania.
I know, I heard.
Secondly, he's promoting the hell out of a guy that I could almost see making an argument that he's going to get drafted at the very end of day 2, that he could actually go in the 3rd round. Punter Matt Ariza from San Diego State.
Dude, he's a beast.
Alex, have you heard of this guy?
No, I have not.
He's a monster.
He had a game. You guys have seen the Grindhouse movies where I can't think of her name, has a shotgun for a leg. This guy literally has a grenade launcher on his leg. He had a game against New Mexico State late in the year last year where he had punts of 72, 63, 78, and 75.
What?
Yeah.
And each one of those had less than 10 yards of roll to them.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Go on to YouTube and search Matt Ariza, Ariza. There's a spot where the announcers on the CBS Sports broadcast are just flabbergasted. He outkicks the return guy by 20 yards.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
That is crazy.
Somebody is going to draft this kid, and somebody's basically going to have their special team shored up. He's also a bit of a place kicker. He's not as accurate as a place kicker as he is a punter. I mean, he could do double duty, but somebody's going to shore up their secondary their special teams for at least the next 5 to 7 years with this kid. He's going to be the steal of the draft, I think, in the that's not on a day 2 or day 3.
That's crazy. So let's wrap this puppy up, because it's been almost 2 hours and I got get the baby to bed and mama to bed. So, because I'm in the bedroom tonight. So JC, the video was phenomenal. Your anger was palpable. And I will say this, next week's going to be fun. What else is in the hopper?
Whatever actually shakes out with the tournament tonight, it's maybe actually I was thinking of maybe doing a piece with Chris Bryant, maybe just to kind of fill a hole on the baseball page, as you see that still needs a lot of work. But that's really about it. It's last week and so has been really chaotic, especially with all the content. Maybe just kind of need to step back a little bit, kind of do a filler piece, but there will definitely be something coming out of this weekend and certainly leading into our show next week.
Nice. Alex, row 7. I got to tell you, the one with you and your brother was awesome. So what do you got coming up?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was actually going to see if I could bring you guys onto my podcast, and we talk a little bit of post and MLB free agency and kind of pump up the season, as we're about 2.5 weeks away. We got spring training games that are taking place this weekend. So I figured if you guys were available, we can, possibly pencil in some time.
The only time I'm not available is the weekend of April 9th. Okay. Bobby turns 1 that weekend.
Okay.
Can you believe that, Alex?
That is ridiculous.
It's craziness. So as far as Big Rican goes, I will have a New York Mets preview in the next week to 10 days. Next weekend, we will have the Wise Guy show on Jim's page. Draft wrap up. It's all coming up. It's just I got to keep it to 1 day a week. So as always, Big Rican can be found here on YouTube, on Facebook, Big Rican on Sports, and YouTube, Big Rican on Sports, on Twitter at Big Rican on Sport, Anchor, Google, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Ask Alexa to play Big Rican. Thank you for coming on the 3rd annual Big Rican mock draft. There will be a 4th annual, whether it's going to be lunacy. I can feel it now. For Jim, for Alex, thank you, gentlemen. We'll talk to you as very soon. and I'll be texting both of you anyway. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.
Come on. Sorry, this is moving really slow. I'm just Xing out of it. Gentlemen, I will talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man.
You got it. Go get
Good
some
night,
rest.
Bye.
Night.